do today, we are going to try and predict the picks. We're going to try and break down the first round of the NBA draft and try and just guess on how tomorrow's order is going to go. So that's what we got in store for you today. I am Gary Kester. I am joined by my other pretend general managers, Kyle Hartwick and Jacob Rude. Fellas, how we doing?
Doing pretty well.
I'm doing great because the Lakers now have 3 chances to take a Duke player. This is going to be great.
If they take Grayson Allen, I seriously might have to book a flight to Indiana just to kill you.
Bring it. Let's go. I'll have the potatoes waiting to beat you up with.
That'll be the next podcast. Just Jacob and I on a fight to the death.
Listen, I'm not buying your plane ticket out here, though. I know that's a precedent that's been set by NBA Twitter, but I'm not doing it.
Wow. So you have home field advantage and I have to travel like on my own dime? Come on, man.
Yes, exactly.
All right.
GoFundMe for you, Gary.
At least one of you is a true friend and not fired. So the 2018 NBA draft is tomorrow. Like I said, we are going to alternate picks. Basically, it's only going to be 3 of us. So each of us gets 10 picks. We randomize the order beforehand. We have not laid out the picks beforehand, so you're going to get some live reactions to these picks. We're not going to offer a ton of analysis because we don't want the podcast to go on too long. Let us know what you think about the picks in the comment section on YouTube. If you like the podcast, as always, you can find us on Twitter at Lakers Outsiders. You can find us on Facebook, of course, at LakersOutsiders.com. And specifically for the podcast, you can also find us by subscribing to us on YouTube and iTunes and Podbean. You can find all of our podcasts there and all of our content on our social media sites and the website itself. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive on in. Kyle, you were lucky enough to land the number 1 pick with the Phoenix Suns. So you, my friend, are on the clock. Let's get this thing started.
Grayson Allen. I mean, no.
My man.
I said Kyle, not Jacob. What's going on?
No, the Suns obviously picked DeAndre Ayton, and unless, like Gary said at the beginning of the pod, you've been living under a rock, I don't really need to explain why they take him and why I think they're going to take him. So DeAndre Ayton.
DeAndre Ayton off the board. All right. So I get to pick for the Kings, which means I have to somehow screw this up, like royally. No pun intended. I mean, so we're basing, I don't even know if I mentioned this, but we're basing this on how we think the picks are going to turn out, not what we would do as GMs. And there's been a lot of reports and a lot of rumors that the Kings are locked in on Marvin Bagley. So that's who I'm going to give him. I'm going to give him Marvin Bagley out of Duke. I hate picking Duke players, but if I'm going to send him anywhere, I'm going to send him to the Sacramento Kings. Personally, I would take a different guy here, probably a guy that's about to get picked, and I'll let you know. I don't want to spoil anything. But Jacob, go ahead. You are the pretend general manager of the Atlanta Hawks with the 3rd pick.
See, it would make sense to take Doncic here, but there hasn't really been any kind of buzz about Atlanta taking Doncic. If anything, I think if Doncic is here, they probably trade the pick. Somebody will be trading up, I think.
I think there have been some recent rumors like within the last couple of days that are picking up a little bit of steam.
So the buzz with Doncic to the Hawks kind of picked up in the last 24 hours, but I don't know if it was picked up because of like they want to increase the trade value of the pick. Like, hey, if you guys don't trade up to this pick, we're taking Doncic here because that's kind of the guy that people are going to trade up for. So it goes either way.
I'm just going to take Doncic because
we talked him into it.
Well, I mean, it makes so much like Doncic to me is a clear number 1 prospect. So the fact that he's even available at 3 doesn't make sense. Yeah, I mean, there's really no rationale I have to use. I can't remember. I think it was somebody on Simmons Pod the other day said it was Giovanni. Said the other day that we're going to look back in like 3 years and think, what in the world were people thinking letting Doncic slip that far? So yeah,
right, yeah, and that's the guy who I would have taken if I was the GM of the Kings with the last pick. But I agree with you, Jacob. I think he's the best prospect in this class, and I would take him number 1. But that's just me. But we'll talk about that. We can talk about that a little bit more at the end of the draft because he's a very polarizing prospect given usually international prospects are. So, Kyle, you get to take over the Memphis Grizzlies.
Again, it should be noted that this is what the teams would do and not what I would do. Teams seem to be way higher on Jaren Jackson Jr. than I am, but that's kind of like a Big Ten bias where I weirdly don't like any of the Big Ten prospects right now. Jaren Jackson Jr. makes sense for them, though. He's just kind of a grit and grind guy. He'll fit right in there in Memphis if they even keep the pick.
Yeah, we'll see if they use that pick to unload the Chandler Parsons contract, which will be interesting because I think you'd think they'd have to at least get a top 10 pick in return for that. Maybe a team like the Knicks or something. That's where the draft is really going to get interesting to see if that pick is traded.
And the Grizzlies are also like weirdly looking to still compete. Like they still have relatively decent guys on their roster.
Well, they spent so much 2 off seasons ago. Was it 2 off seasons? Yeah, I think it was 2 off seasons.
On the Conley and then Gasol is still under contract for a little while.
Yeah, so. Conley, Gasol, and Parsons all 3 have monstrous contracts.
So it would make sense for them to trade for a guy who can contribute kind of right away. And then maybe also get a pick out of it, but who knows? Who knows what they're going to do?
Yeah. All right. So I've got the Dallas Mavericks. I have to call up Mark Cuban, see what he wants to do. To me, this one I think is pretty much consensus in most mock drafts that we've seen, and I'm going to give them the same because I think that's what's going to happen. Mo Bamba is the guy I think they take here. The Mavs. Really recently, there's been a lot of rumors that they want free agent big guys. Like there's rumors that they were interested in Julius Randle, Hassan Whiteside, DeAndre Jordan, which I can't imagine after that whole fiasco a few years ago. But the Mavs seem to want a center, maybe, and especially with Bamba. He's a freakishly built prospect with his wingspan, and I think he's a really smart kid, a guy that's going to work. Not to quote Michael Jordan here, but the ceiling is the roof for him, I guess.
Oh my god!
But no, there's a ton of upside with Bamba, and he's grown a little bit on me. I wasn't as sold on him entering the draft process, but he's grown a little bit on me. I think he could be really, really good. So it's unfortunate that Mark Cuban can get his hands on a good player. But Jacob, you get the Orlando Magic.
Well, you also forgot the most important reason that Mo Bamba needs to go to the Mavericks, because it would then be Mo Bamba number 5. The Magic, this one again doesn't need much explanation. They'll take a point guard, and I think it'll be Trae Young. The reasoning is that none of you watching this can name who started at point guard for the Magic after they traded Elfrid Payton.
I know.
It's DJ Augustine.
Yeah.
It's DJ Augustine. Yeah, well, I didn't know that before I clicked the depth chart. So they need a point guard, and it's as simple as that.
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk about Trae Young possibly slipping in this draft, and I don't know why. I mean, I get the defensive concerns, and that stuff, but man, I mean, if you get the right coach to kind of rein him in and his shot selection, that kind of stuff, he could be so good. He could be so good. So, I mean, I'm all in on Trae Young. I really like his game. But Kyle, you get Chicago Bulls number 7.
So leading up to this pick, I was kind of going back and forth between a couple different guys. I'm going to just go with my gut on what I think the Bulls will do. Being a longtime Bulls fan for years and years until I recently switched over, I kind of have a feel for what the front office is going to do. Michael Porter Jr. is their guy. He is a guy who has, I think, first overall potential. He had a back injury this year that kind of kept him out for, I believe, all but 2 games of the season. But that's the guy that they want there for sure.
Yeah, he's an interesting prospect because you basically have to go off his high school tape because there's really nothing to base his college film on. Well, and workouts, obviously. I think that's really important to have for teams. So, all right. So I get the Cleveland Cavaliers. So I got to figure out which guy is going to kind of take the torch after LeBron goes to the Lakers. So this is kind of tough because there's a couple of different routes I want to go, but I keep coming back to this guy as somebody I think that the Cavs will want. And I'm going to give them Colin Sexton out of Alabama. at the very least, he's going to know the time and the score in any given situation.
Low bar.
So I don't know. And the Cavs just, I mean, when you look at their roster, I mean, even if they somehow convince LeBron to come back, I mean, they've got their 3, 4, 5, you know, assuming they start Tristan Thompson, Kevin Love, and LeBron. They need guard play in the worst way. And Sexton was a kid that, I mean, as a freshman, just lit it up this year. You know, he's not overly big, but he can fill it up. I mean, he can score the basketball and provide some offensive firepower that really the Cavs just didn't have. I mean, they didn't get anything out of George Hill or Jordan Clarkson after the trade. J.R. Smith was all over the place.
Literally.
Yeah, whenever he got the ball, literally. So, yeah, I'm going to give them – I don't know if he's necessarily the best player available here, but I'm going to give them Colin Sexton. So, and then that means, Jacob, you get to take over the New York Knicks with the 9th pick.
Again, another team that I need to figure out how to probably screw this up. I think this player will fit. I mean, they're probably not going to have Porzingis for most of the year. I think without him there, it'll make the transition a little easier. And then with him, I think the two can play together. It's Wendell Carter Jr.
Mhm.
He was – I'm really high on him. Him and Bagley both suffered from having to play next to one another because really they're both kind of centers and didn't really mesh too well. But I'm really high on Wendell Carter Jr., and I think him and Porzingis can be a modern front court. They both are mobile. They both can shoot threes. I think it would work well together.
For sure. Carter was the other guy I was kind of torn with that last pick. I mean, he's
same with me at 7 too, actually.
Yeah. I mean, I think he suffers a little bit in this draft that the top of the draft is so big man heavy. Like any other draft, he might be the first or second big guy taken off the board. But yeah, I mean, still 9th pick to the Knicks. I think he's definitely a top 10 pick. So, I mean, if he falls, he won't fall much further. But Kyle, you get the Philadelphia 76ers is the pick that would have gone to the Lakers if it wasn't for the Steve Nash trade. But I'm not going to complain because the pick lasted this long to finally convey. So you got the Sixers at number 10.
So this pick and player is kind of a match made in heaven. Mikal Bridges, he's a Villanova guy in the city of Philadelphia, or I think it's roughly just a little bit outside of the Philly, or outside.
They play a lot of their home games in that building.
Yeah, but basically, he's the perfect fit. He is the guy in the top 10 that can just come in and contribute right away outside of Luka Doncic, who's not really much of a long-term prospect. He has a higher floor than he has like a ceiling. He'll be a guy to come in right away, help them out, and hopefully make a playoff push in the East that might not have LeBron next year. We don't know.
And if that's the case, I mean, that thing is just wide open. So I'm on the clock with the Charlotte Hornets, who shout out to Mitch Kupchak for reuniting with Timofey Mozgov today and getting rid of Dwight Howard for the second time. And yeah, so this is an interesting pick, especially with the way this draft has kind of unfolded. There's a lot of talk that they might do away with Kemba Walker and really rebuild. So, I mean, even if not, I think this guy can play alongside Kemba, or they can slowly ease him in. But I'm going to give them Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, SGA, as he's better known, because that's a mouthful. But this kid was so impressive to me. I mean, he's about to be 20. He was a freshman at Kentucky, but luckily I got to see him play in person when they came to Boise for the tournament. And I mean, the kid's really impressive. I think his game is really going to translate, to the next level. And I think he's going to be one of those Kentucky guys that, looked good at Kentucky, but when they get to the pro level, their game can really thrive and really take off. So I really like him, and I'm going to give him to the Hornets at number 11. So, and that puts Jacob up with the little brother, the stepbrother in LA, the Clippers. First of back-to-back picks.
So this isn't who I initially kind of thought that they would take when we did this, but this person slipped a little bit from what it sounded like. He's actually risen kind of in the last week or so, really. But Their first pick, I'll have them take Kevin Knox. One of the youngest prospects, I think might be the youngest prospect in the draft. And it's always hard to kind of analyze Kentucky players because they're always so kind of pigeonholed into certain roles, which is true with just about every Kentucky player this year. So yeah, it seems like he's really done well in workouts. He's a 6'9" forward who is 18 years old and can hit threes. Like, there's a lot to work with there. So, yeah, I think they'll take him, a wing player, with their first of two picks, if they even have them on draft night.
Yeah, they're the other team I'm kind of worried about when it comes to the Kawhi Leonard stuff. Yeah, I'm not going to dive into that. That's a bad. No, we're just not going to. We're not going to speak that into existence. All right, Kyle, you get the Clippers' second pick at number 13.
So the guy that I really want to take here is Zaire Smith. I am unfortunately not going to take him. There is a guy kind of slipping that the Clippers are going to be able to pick up. I've seen him linked to the Clippers a little bit, a couple of times. They're going to take Miles Bridges. He's a guy who should have come out last year. He probably would have been picked a little higher than 13. I think he was kind of a top 7 guy last year before he decided he wanted to go back to school. They get a good pick here, though, with him.
Yeah, I was really surprised when he went back to school.
I think everybody was. I think Tom Izzo was.
Yeah.
It's like, hey. All right, that gives me the Denver Nuggets. So I pretty much have to draft another stepchild of Julius Randle's. So,
which player is Isaiah Thomas going to smirk at as he drives by him next season?
The Nuggets are an interesting team to draft for because they kind of have some good players at a lot of different positions. They don't really need a whole lot. I mean, maybe another like star player, but I'm going to go with Lonnie Walker out of Miami. To me, he's the best player available at this point. And I think a lot of teams just kind of that's how they go. And I think he's a guy that can fit in. I guess looking at their depth chart, they could use a little more depth at the guard or wing position. And Lonnie Walker is, a guy that I mean played very, very well as a freshman at Miami in the ACC. I mean, that's kind of speaks for itself. I really like his game, and I think unfortunately the Nuggets get a good player here. So, Jacob, you have the Washington Wizards.
I was actually going to look up the actual figure, but despite paying Jan Mahimi and Marcin Gortat like $60 trillion,
just a rough estimate, but it's probably pretty close.
I rounded up a little bit, but they still kind of need a modern day center. So I'll have them take Robert Williams out of Texas A&M, another player that probably if he'd came out last year, I think he'd probably been in the same range, but showed out at times this year. You remember that, Gary?
No, I don't remember any games in March specifically.
Yeah, so
especially no second round of 32 games. I don't remember that at all.
Okay, I was just making sure. I didn't hear a lot about him in March, but
I don't remember any windmill dunks or anything like that. No,
definitely not. But yeah, I think he is a solid fit for the modern NBA as a big man, and gives them a more kind of, as I've said, modern big man option off the bench, because it already seems like John Wall and Marcin Gortat don't really like each other.
Yeah, well, I think John Wall wants like a more athletic big guy. I think I remember reading that somewhere. But
yeah, he's
Robert Williams is exactly that. He's very athletic for his size. So, alrighty, Kyle, you're back to being the GM of the Suns. You get the Suns again at number 16.
So I am kind of leaning back and forth between two guys here. I'm going to go with my gut, and it's going to be a little bit of a reach, but we haven't had one of those yet, and I feel like the Suns are the team to do it. They're going to take Anthony Simons, who is playing at IMG Academy. Extremely young player. I think he's one of like the 5 or 10 youngest guys in the draft. A lot of upside there. Really good scorer, has pretty decent defensive potential. and he fits the Suns' timeline, which is just youth right now. And I feel like he'd be a fun pick for them.
That was a very fun pick. I did not see that coming. Props to you, sir. All right, so I get the Milwaukee Bucks.
You take the dude with the longest wingspan.
That's what I was just thinking. I think they got to get somebody that is going to provide a little more offensive spark next to Giannis Antetokounmpo and Chris Middleton. Because Jabari Parker is a restricted free agent, and I don't know what his future is with them or what the deal is with that. This guy doesn't play that position, but I'm going to give them Jerome Robinson out of Boston College.
Nice.
A guy that just filled it up last year. I mean, granted, he played for Boston College, who, wasn't great. They did have, they actually, I think, had a couple upset wins over some top teams. And they competed with some other top teams too. But this guy, I mean, like I said, I think he was a 20-point scorer in the ACC, playing with, not a ton of help, so he was the guy that defenses keyed on, and he still got it done. So I think the Bucks could use a little more offensive firepower. He's got pretty good size at the 2-guard position. So Jerome Robinson to the Bucks, which puts Jacob, you're now the GM of the Spurs. So if you want to just give us Kawhi Leonard now, that would be ideal. But it's up to you.
Dane and Tyler Ennis, please. Thank you.
All right, deal. Okay. Actually, we'll do a pick swap in there as well. So you can have the 16th pick, and we'll take the 25th or whatever. But anyway,
47. Come on.
Yeah.
Woj just tweeted out that Jacob just got fired as the Spurs GM. But
fake news. Based on the way this played out, he slipped a little bit. This would be kind of annoying. The Spurs get a player that kind of fell to them, but I'll have him take Zaire Smith. Crazy athletic, maybe more of a little bit of a project, trying to develop some of his game, but he's only 18. I think he'd be a great wing for them to have. They don't have a whole lot of youth, especially young kind of wing players. So getting Zaire Smith would be perfect for him.
Yeah, he's a guy that's kind of had his stock, I think, all over the board. I think a lot of people have hyped him up, but I've seen him in some mock drafts falling a little bit. And a guy the Lakers are reportedly interested in moving up for. So,
yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, if this scenario plays out and he does kind of slip, it'll be interesting to see if the Lakers do anything. I mean, they have an extra pick now to trade up with. They've already reportedly been interested in him. Be interested to see how far he has to fall before the Lakers make a move.
Yeah. There's been a lot of talk that there could be a lot of trades. So that's going to be fun. All right. So the Hawks, we gave them Luka Doncic with the 3rd pick. And looking at their roster, it is not good. They just had Dwayne Dedmon opt into his contract, I believe, today. So
not great.
I was going to go with a certain center here, but I think I'm going to switch that because he's there now. I am going to go – this is a guy that has gotten a lot of love, especially with Lakers Twitter. A lot of people think he got a promise from the Lakers, but I don't think he falls that far, all the way to 25. Kevin Huerter out of Maryland. I'm going to have him going to the Hawks at 19. A kid that's got a good size out on the wing, can probably play the 2 or the 3, has flashed some defensive potential, but man, the kid can shoot the ball. He can really, really shoot the basketball. And that's a premium in today's NBA. If you can shoot the ball, there's definitely a spot for you. So, plus the Hawks are a little thin, I think, at the 2-guard. So Huerter to the Hawks at 19 puts – I just picked for Kyle. I just went out of order. I'm like the New York Mets.
To be fair. Oh, no. Here, I'll draft it at 20. That's fine.
Yeah, I was going to say, you can have the Timberwolves. So you got to find a prospect that can last 48 minutes a night.
Yeah. So I I legit thought I was picking for the Timberwolves too. And you just started talking. I was like, okay.
What they say we agreed on a deal.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
traded picks.
They need a guy who can come in right away. They're not really looking for a guy that they can kind of groom. They need someone who can help their window, which is now, because there's no guarantee that Jimmy Butler is even going to be there after this year. I'm going to have them taking Chandler Hutchinson out of Boise State.
My man.
I feel like he's a guy who can kind of come in and play those spot minutes where he's not maybe playing 20 minutes a night, but he's playing like 11 where some guys are on the bench. And he can just come in and contribute where he needs to.
If he plays well, he is playing a minimum of 46 minutes a night with Tom Thibodeau as his head coach.
Fair.
Hutchinson's interesting. I'm just going to touch on Hutchinson real quick just because he's a local product for me. He canceled all of his workouts and he pulled out of the combine like the day before the combine. So everybody's pretty certain that he got a first-round promise from somebody. There's been a number of reported teams. I think the Nets at 29, the Bulls at 22. But really it could be anybody. So best of luck to Chandler. So that puts Jacob on the clock. Let me make sure I get this right. With the Jazz at 21.
I'll actually think Huerter would be a decent fit for them. Another spot I could see him coming off the board. He's already off the board, so I will say they take Troy Brown. I think him and Donovan Mitchell would be a pretty fun backcourt. I think they complement each other well. And again, there's a lot of really young players kind of in this range of the draft. Troy Brown's only 18. I believe he's the second youngest player in the draft behind Knox. So gives them a backcourt of the future. I think Mitchell and Brown as a backcourt of the future would be a lot of fun. Just a lot of kind of explosiveness, quickness, that type of stuff in the backcourt. So yeah, Troy Brown would be a really good pick for them.
But is he a true rookie?
I'm not sure. We'll have to see. I kind of want, I don't want any of these guys to get injured, but I kind of want a similar scenario to play out with the Jazz just to see how Donovan Mitchell handles it, how he has to basically eat his words like a year later.
All right, Kyle, that puts you back on the clock with the Chicago Bulls again. Somehow you got these teams like with 2 picks on each one.
Yeah, this is crazy. Here, I think they have their guard situation set with Dunn and Levine. They also just got a Wayne earlier in the draft, so they're going to try to get like a Wayne forward guy here. I'm going to take Dylan's favorite player, Keita Bates-Diop, to the Bulls.
Nice.
He's another Big Ten player, and the Bulls kind of don't really scout outside of the Big Ten and then sell the picks when there's no Big Ten players left on the board. But he's actually a good player, and it's really hard to miss in this draft. So I feel like the Bulls can take Keita Bates-Diop here and see what happens.
Yeah, speaking of Dylan, him and I did a joint mock draft earlier today, so that's up on LakersOutsiders.com if you want to see that. Dylan didn't threaten. He wished death upon me when I took Keita Bates-Diop before he could. So shout out to Dylan for wishing death upon me, I guess. But anyways, I have the Indiana Pacers with the 23rd pick. Another interesting team that was surprisingly good last year, and they've got some young pieces, I think, at about pretty much every position. So I'm going to go with a guy that has been red hot in basically since March or April, since the tournament, and carried that momentum, created a lot of buzz about himself. That's Dante DiVincenzo out of Villanova. I think he was the Final Four most outstanding player. He had a monster championship game performance against Michigan. And I mean, he's a guy I think NBA teams are going to like. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he goes in the top 20 somewhere. But I have him going 23 here to the Pacers. He's done a lot to boost his draft stock in the last few months, and I think he's definitely a first-round pick. So if that happens, congrats to him and his family. Jacob, you get the Portland Trailblazers, so somehow you have to sign this draft pick to a huge contract to add to that payroll that's like enormous.
They're a weird team to draft for. They probably need more of a win now guy. But I don't really know that there are a lot of them available at this spot. I will have them take. I mean, I'll probably just fall back on this. He's probably my favorite prospect in the draft. I do think he has kind of instant offense that can help this team and take some pressure off Lillard and McCollum. It's Jonan Musa, forward. He's played the last couple years professionally, so he's at least in that regard already kind of had real professional basketball experience. But yeah, I mean, you can never have too many wings, and it sets him up nicely for about 5 years from now. They can pay him whatever the max contract will be at that time, like $35 million, something along those lines.
All right, the moment we've all been waiting for. Kyle, you get to be Rob Pelinka or Magic Johnson, whichever one you prefer. You get to make the pick for the Los Angeles Lakers at 25. I just want to preface this by saying once these picks are done, Jacob and I are going to give our picks, given who's already off the board, who we would take in this scenario, but we'll do that at the end. Kyle, the floor is yours.
So there's a couple different ways I can go here, but since we're doing who I think the Lakers will take, and since he has slipped a little bit, depending on how you feel about him, they're going to take Lonzo's former running mate, Aaron Holiday, out of UCLA. Already has good team chemistry with our current point guard, Lonzo. And last year we employed Tyler Ennis to play basketball with us. So any guard help is really necessary. I see a lot of people saying Mitchell Robinson, but if you remember, we had like 1 million bigs last year and employed Tyler Ennis as a guard on our team. So really any guards, you can't go wrong in this area of the draft. And I'd honestly be happy if they took a guard at every single spot that they have in the draft right now.
Just to avoid employing Tyler Ennis next year.
Yes.
I mean, it's a strategy I'm fine with. I'll get behind it.
Yeah.
All right, Aaron Holiday kind of slipped a little bit. There's been a lot of buzz that he's going to be picked pretty high, probably maybe top 15, maybe in the lottery.
And I'm not that high on him. I do think if he gets to 25 and the Lakers don't have any of their top guys on the board, they might take him. But like I said, there are other guys I'd prefer here, but this is kind of what I think they would do.
Yeah, I'm not as high as on him as some others are, but I also would be pretty stoked if the Lakers got him at 25.
Yeah,
that would
awesome.
be really good value.
I think he's probably a better fit if the Lakers get LeBron or Paul George or both. I think he's a better kind of off-ball guard.
You mean when the Lakers get LeBron and Paul George?
Yeah, that's what I said.
Okay. Just
when
trying to speak it into existence over here.
When they get LeBron and Paul George, he'll be a good guard to put out there as shooter. He's listed as a point guard, but he's 6'1". He has some. I have some concerns about his size, but yeah, no, I'd be fine with that pick.
All right, so I get to pick for the 76ers. This pick won't matter to Sixers fans because they'll be too busy worrying about what the Laker young players do half the time. So, man, this is tricky. I'm tempted to give them another Villanova player, but I just – for some reason I keep kind of mocking this player to them. And I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to give them Josh Okogie. I think is how you pronounce it. I always mess up his last name.
I believe that's right.
But I mean, a sophomore at Georgia Tech. I've talked about a couple of guys earlier that played in the ACC and played very well. He's another one of those guys. And I think, really, the Sixers are going to need just some more perimeter depth, some more guys that can play off the ball because Ben Simmons is going to handle basketball a lot. We gave them Bridges early on, and I think that's a tremendous fit. JJ Redick, I think, is a free agent. He only signed, I think, a 1-year deal. It was a big 1-year deal, but
yeah.
I think Bellinelli might be the same thing. So they might need to address the two guard position a little bit, and I think he's a good fit there. So, all right, Jacob, you have to make the worst pick in the draft here with the 27th pick, the Boston Celtics. Counting on you to mess this up.
Hold on. Let me find the highest ranked UNC player real quick.
You will not give them Theo Pinson. I will kick you off this podcast.
I mean, realistically, I don't really. I mean, they have so many players that I think they're already going to have problems like finding minutes for everybody. So I don't really think they need like a guy that can come in and play right now. So kind of with that in mind, I'll have them take Mitchell Robinson.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think he's more of a project anyway. I think a couple years down the road, he can be a solid player. He just has some holes, and he's another guy that sat out this year. There's kind of some questions about why, but he's crazy athletic for a center, a 6'11" center. So there's a ton of potential there, but I think he needs some time kind of unlocking that potential, and he'll have plenty of time to do it in Boston because they certainly won't need him to contribute right away, which I think is the perfect type of situation for him to come into.
Right, for sure. All right, so that puts Kyle up on the board with the defending NBA champion Golden State Warriors. Kyle?
So here I'm kind of floating back and forth between somebody who can contribute now and somebody that they can kind of stash away, maybe play in the G League for a few years and figure things out. I'm going to lean towards somebody that can come in and play right away now. I'm going to have them taking Grayson Allen out of Duke. He's a guy that Jacob is better suited to talk about, but he's the type of guy
we don't have that kind of time. We really don't.
He can come in.
Allow me to enlighten you.
And be an offensive asset in the limited minutes that he will get for the Warriors, unless he does end up taking Steph Curry's job away from him.
Not make it.
But
I didn't have to pay him that much for this.
Please do not make me spit water all over my computer.
But Grayson Allen is a good player despite what school he chose to go to and what he looks like as a person.
That's better.
This is the worst pandering I've ever seen.
And he'll go well with Zaza Pachulia as like a really rough, dirty player. And Draymond, I guess, too. So, Grayson Allen is a fun pick for the Warriors.
He swung like 3 different ways in 3 separate sentences in a row.
That was impressive. I mean, I think he covered everything. Oh, man. All right. So I have the Brooklyn Nets at 29. This is looking at their depth chart is really weird because I feel like they have a lot of decent players, but not a lot of like really good players yet. I mean, obviously, I think D'Angelo Russell can become a good player. I think Jarrett Allen could become a good player. Spencer Dinwiddie was really solid last year. They'll have Jeremy Lin back. So this is kind of a tricky pick here. I'm kind of looking at the board. Man, this is why
Brooklyn Nets fan, you better not mess this up.
This is why I can't be an NBA GM. I can't make decisions like this. All right, so I am going to go. They're a team that likes to shoot a lot of threes, and this is a guy that might not fit well into their rotation, just because they kind of have a logjam on the perimeter, anyways. But I'm going to give them Gary Trent Jr. out of Duke. I mean, Jacob knows all about him. I mean, I watch him plenty, rooting for Duke to lose every game, but he can really shoot the ball. And with, like I said, with the Nets, a team that likes to shoot a lot of threes, I think he's a guy that would fit in well there. They create a lot of threes in transition and through a lot of high screen and roll action. And they've got some quality playmakers, I think, in D'Angelo Russell, Dinwiddie, and Jeremy Lin that he would benefit from having some open looks. So Gary Trent Jr., he's got a great first name. I'll give him that, even though he went to the wrong school. And on that note, Jacob is going to round us out with the Atlanta Hawks with their 3rd first-round selection in this draft, with the 30th and final first-round pick.
So far we have them taking Doncic and Huerter.
Yes.
I mean, this is kind of a weird pick because I think really they just need to take best player available. They are in such a situation that they just can't afford not to, basically. So with that in mind, I would say the best player available probably, I'm going to butcher this name, Eli Okobo.
Eli Okobo, yeah.
Eli Okobo. He's a young guard playing overseas, has a ton of potential, but has a ton of question marks too. So I think he can play with Doncic because I think Doncic can play off the ball some. So I think that fit will work. I'm also working under the assumption that Dennis Schroeder is traded because Dennis Schroeder said he wants to be traded, like very publicly said that he wants to go to other teams. So I assume he's gone. So that would give them a nice little backcourt combo moving forward.
All right. Well, that's it, boys. I wish we had time to do a full second round mock, but I also don't want to do a 3-hour podcast. So, but no, that was good. That was fun. So Kyle, you took Aaron Holiday with the 25th pick. Jacob, if you were on the clock with the 25th pick in that situation, same circumstances, who would you have taken?
I'm just not quite as high on Aaron Holiday. I wouldn't be upset with the pick. Mainly, I'm not going to be upset with any pick the Lakers make because I think they've earned the benefit of the doubt. But personally, I probably would have went with either DeAnthony Melton or Kyrie Thomas. Anybody who's followed me on Twitter knows I'm kind of irrationally high on Kyrie Thomas. He's I think, going to be a really good kind of 3-and-D guard, and he has a 6'10" wingspan and was a defensive player of the year. And DeAnthony Melton is a lot of the same. He's a really good defensive guard. He's kind of a combo guard. There's a lot of questions about his shot, but he's been working with Drew Hanlon. I mean, for whatever value you want to put into it, there's some video of his shot, which looks drastically better than what it was in college. But, I mean, the reasoning is the same as Kyle used. I don't want Tyler Ennis as the point guard anymore, and both of those guys would ensure – I guess Kyrie Thomas is more of a shooting guard, but he was used as a creator a fair amount. So, basically, if they draft either of those guys, they don't have to employ Tyler Ennis next year.
All right, well, I'm going to give you Kyrie Thomas just so I can say DeAnthony Melton because that's who I would have picked. I just watching this guy's tape on defense, oh, man, it – gets me going a little bit. Like I love seeing him defend the way he does. The shooting obviously isn't there. Hopefully that's something he can work on and get better at. But man, just his ability as a defender, and he's shown obviously some chops as a playmaker as well. Yeah, that defense I think would be so beneficial for the Lakers to have. I'm a big fan of his, so that's who I would have taken there. But I totally get your guys' selections. I think Aaron Holiday's tremendous value there, and Kyrie Thomas, Jacob, for the reasons that you said, would be a good pick there too. I mean, there's a number of guys I think in that range that are good quality players. I mean, I think this draft is fairly deep. It's kind of a weird draft where a lot of the top guys are big guys, and then it's like very wing and guard heavy after that for the most part.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. There are a ton of guards.
Yeah,
in the Lakers area. I would personally kind of put more weight in drafting a wing player, but I mean the two guys I like most are Keita Bates-Diop and Chandler Hutchison, and they were both gone. But those would honestly probably be the two guys that I'd want most. But other than that, I mean, there's almost certainly going to be either with that pick or the 39th pick that they just got is going to be a guard because there's just so many of them.
Yeah. All right. And quickly before we sign off, if you haven't heard the news yet, the Lakers acquired another second-round pick from the Philadelphia 76ers. I believe it's the 39th pick overall. So that gives them 3 picks total tomorrow, 25, 39, and 47. In exchange, they gave Philly a second-rounder next year that I think is from the Bulls, plus cash considerations. I think the deal has to be completed after July 6th. So the Sixers are essentially just going to pick for the Lakers, whoever they tell them. Kyle, I'll throw it to you. Who's one guy that we haven't picked in the second round that you've kind of got your eye on, a guy you'd like the Lakers to pick with one of those 2 second rounders?
So the reason that the deal has to be completed after July 6th is because the Sixers reached their limit on cash that they can accept in trades, which is $5.1 million. So
if any teams want to trade me $5.1 million for anything, I mean, I'm available.
So that's why it has to be completed after July 6th. The one guy that I really like in the second round is Shake Milton. He was a guy that I thought the Lakers should take at 30 or at 25, but then he kind of slipped for reasons unknown because NBA teams are weird. So if he's a guy that they think that they can target at 39, then I'd be all on board for that. I feel like that'd be a great win for the Lakers, and it would mean that Tyler Ennis wouldn't have to play for the Los Angeles Lakers anymore.
Poor Tyler Ennis, man. He's going to find us and just, and block us on Twitter probably. But all right, Jacob, who's the second round guy that you're looking at?
This would probably depend on who they take at 25, but one guy I'm a huge fan of is Javon Carter. If we're talking about defense, there is not a better defender. I was going to say perimeter defender, but maybe at all in this draft than Carter. He has like some of the quickest hands I've ever seen. He is built like an ox. He is just a huge body. There are a lot of concerns about his height. He's 6'2" with a 6'4" wingspan. He's probably going to top out as like a bench backup point guard. But man, he's the type of guy. I mean, in a lot of ways, he reminded me of the way Patrick Beverley plays. I think there's a lot of differences in their game, but he's a guy that'll pick you up 94 feet, bump you around a bunch, turn you a couple times, and then just hassle you for 48 minutes or for 40 minutes in college. And he played at West Virginia, who is press Virginia basically. So he's stamina is not a problem. He played a ton of minutes there. He's a super fun player. I think depending on the team he goes to, he could be kind of an instant contributor. Well, basically, I think he can be an instant contributor to a winning team.
Yeah, he's a dog on defense, man. He just gets after it. I mean, when you're the captain basically of Press Virginia, I mean, like you said, Jacob, his stamina has got to be something else. And I mean, he really gets after it on that. And that's kind of the similar reason why I like DeAnthony Melton is because of their defensive prowess. For me, I like the 2 Cincinnati guys, preferably. I mean, I like Gary Clark because he's got a great first name. But I also really like Jacob Evans. I mean, Cincinnati was a really tough defensive team, and those 2 guys, I think, had a lot to do with that. Evans is a guy I wouldn't be surprised goes in the first round. Dylan in my mock draft earlier, we had him going in the first round. I'm not going to say where, but he's a guy that, was a quality 3-point shooter, not a great one, but a capable one. And would provide some wing depth for the Lakers, which they badly needed last year because when Brandon Ingram got hurt, it was tough to recover from. But yeah, I like the 2 Cincinnati guys for their defense and some other things they bring to the table. But yeah, I mean, there's still, a lot of good options there, like a lot of good options. So
this draft is really deep. I was really happy that they acquired another second-round pick. I mean, there's a lot of reasons they could have done it. It might be – my first thought was it was kind of a preemptive move for something else. But if nothing else, second-round picks don't have cap holds. So they can acquire now 2 role players, hopefully, and not have cap holds for either of them. And, every penny is going to count this offseason.
Yeah. And then I'll throw one more bonus in there just for the road. Landry Shamet out of Wichita State shot 44% from the 3-point line this year. I mean, his shooting numbers were insane. insanely good. So, and he's big for a point guard. I'm kind of surprised he's fallen as far as he has in a lot of mocks. Maybe he's one of those guys that teams will quote unquote reach for. But all right, that's going to do it for us. We are done playing pretend GMs. I'm going to have my own mock draft just for the sake of it. I'm going to finish it up tonight and have it posted tomorrow morning. Like I said, you can find all of our mock drafts. Kyle's done some. Jacob's done some. I did one with Dylan earlier. They're all on LakersOutsiders.com. Go to LakersOutsiders.com. You can see all of our mock drafts. As for this one on the podcast, you can find it anytime on the site, on our social media outlets, or you can subscribe to us on YouTube and iTunes and Podbean as well. If you subscribe to us on iTunes, leave us a comment. Let us know how we did. Those ratings go a long way for us. So we greatly appreciate those. Jacob, Kyle, I greatly appreciate you guys coming on with me. This is always fun to do mock drafts. I mean, I always think they're so stupid, but they're always so much fun. But yeah, the NBA draft is tomorrow night. Buckle up. Maybe we'll get a blockbuster trade. Maybe we'll just get 3 new young players on the Lakers. Who knows?
It's a win-win either way.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
It's gonna be crazy, but it's gonna be a lot of fun. So, like I said, subscribe to the podcast, YouTube, iTunes. Thank you guys for following along with us and leaving us comments. Thank you too for joining me. Until tomorrow night, we'll do some more post-draft. We'll do post-draft coverage and see what the Lakers did. Hopefully, they do very well. I don't have any concerns about that, but we will see. We're less than 24 hours away. So, for Jacob Rude and Kyle Harwick, I am Gary Kester. Signing off. Until tomorrow, post-draft.